The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Window World of Western Mass, a local family business with experienced craftsmen offering skylights, siding, gutters, and doors. windowworldofwesternma.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, lawyers.
Which is to say, we'll talk with two attorneys about the bar advocate shortage in the Bay State.
But first, we're headed out to touch grass.
And trees and rocks and maybe a couple of toads.
All to learn more about the geological history of the area by delving into the mysteries the landscape presents.
And going a bit off the grid while we're at it.
Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the road less traveled by, and that is where we met this author. What's your name?
Noah Charney.
Noah, you have a book called These Trees Tell a Story, and it is part storytelling, part field guide, part exploration of landscape in all sorts of different locations, including where we are right now, the Robert Frost Trailhead. Also, the Ken Cuddleback Trail. I don't know what Ken Cuddleback was all about.
Chris Martin issues a warning to fans about the kiss cam following the viral footage of the astronomer CEO.
But sounds like he had an interesting life. And you brought your two kids with us.
Yep, Juno and Alder there.
Welcome. Let's go for a hike.
All right, sounds good. I haven't been here in a few years, and hopefully we can find the spot.
But what is the spot we're looking for? I'll also say this is the first, I think, interview where we were sent coordinates as opposed to like an address.
Yeah. It worked better than some of the addresses we get, so
I would
no
say,
one's complaining.
Yeah, very, very particular.
Well, so we're going to a spot that's this first mystery site in the book where I used to take college students to, but it's off trail, so we have to kind of like find our way there, and there's a mystery there that we're going to try to solve.
Oh, I love this. And so tell us about These Trees Tell a Story. Tell us about your book.
Watch the poison ivy there. Yeah, so it's based on that course I used to teach where we'd go to this spot in the woods at different spots each week. We'd get in the van with like the 10 students and it'd be like Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine, and we'd get out and find some mystery in the woods. Whether you look at one side of the path, maybe it'd be green, and the other side would be a different color green, and try to figure out what caused that mystery, what caused that pattern. And so the students would take the day to look at the plants and the rocks and the animals and all the things and try to figure out what the pattern was, what was causing it. And they'd discover, underlying geology, land use, history, and climate, and all sorts of different factors that go into shaping our world. It's a way to see how the forces of nature come together to create the woods and the landscape around us.
How many different spots did you find around here to take your students to?
Well, there, about 10, I think, is what it comes down to. And really, each chapter in the book is one of those.
What's your official area of expertise? Because you're kind of an itinerant professor. You've been a professor. You're currently a professor where in Maine?
In Orono, at University of Maine, Wildlife Department.
And you were at UMass?
I've actually taught at all 5 of the colleges. I have a picture of me, my 5 IDs all lined up.
So when they say 5 college professor,
yeah.
That is you.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many other people can claim that title.
Yeah, not everybody gets to make the same rounds.
But I was never on a tenure track line here in the valley, so I ended up with that up in Maine.
You should have been on a 10-year trail. That's what we're walking on right now.
I guess that was where I went wrong.
Yeah.
So I was teaching that course mainly at Hampshire.
Now that you're in Maine, are you seeing some of the same patterns that you saw here, or different because of the logging industry that's there?
Oh, certainly logging has a huge impact there, and there's maybe a deeper history of it here, like sort of further back, older trees. I like the landscape here more. It's, a lot of the same basic ecological factors and patterns and processes really around the whole world that shape things. What's different there is I don't have as deep a history, so like your relationship to a landscape, a lot of it boils down to how long you've known that place, and having been here for almost 30 years, I have lots of stories and I understand where to go to see things and have memories of every place, and that really shapes how I interact and how I can help other people interact with the landscape. I'm losing my breath here.
Well, walking, talking.
And I've got this big backpack full of rocks.
Yeah, you stole rocks. Let's say you borrowed rocks. You borrowed rocks from this particular location that you're now returning. Why What made you take the rocks, and why are you now bringing them back?
They were part of the story, and when I was sort of doing workshops around like the book and openings and stuff, I brought the rocks around to help people see the story instead of just bringing them up to the site. And I promised I'd return them. The first time I came up here in the book, I had Juno on my back. He is much bigger now. And then I had Alder on my back, and I have a big pile of rocks.
Now they're walking on their own.
I know.
And not complaining at all like my kids used to at your age on a hike like this. So well done, kids. I guess if your dad is like a nature enthusiast, you have to bear with
What
it.
you got there, Alder?
What'd you get, Alder?
Cucumber.
What is it?
Indian cucumber.
Tell me about that.
It's a plant that it grows and it has parallel lines on its leaves that go out, and there's a plant called starflowers that grows near it usually, but the leaves aren't parallel and they go out, but then they go out from there.
Can you eat this cucumber?
Yeah. Starflower's poisonous, but the root you can pick off and it's edible.
It's good that the starflower looks almost like it is poisonous, just to keep us on our toes.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Black Forager song.
We're gonna learn about them together, and that is a fact. Oh yeah, one is poison, but two are a snack.
I always think all plants in the woods are going to kill me. So I've had poison ivy so many times that I don't trust anything. But because my kids have gone through these outdoor nature classes, they've taught me a lot about wintergreen and all these other things that, that are edible in the woods that they recognize. The person who runs the programs that my kids went through is named Neil Bovaird. He's got wolf tree programs. Neil Bovaird and his ilk are part of a club that you were part of that is a big part of the beginning of the book and kind of the inspiration for the jumping off point for a lot of the work you've done, it seems.
Yeah, the Woodsy Club.
Tell me about the Woodsy Club.
It was sort of this unofficial club in college where kids would
Which college?
The 5 colleges. Well, it was a community. It was based at UMass, but I didn't. I was actually at Amherst College, and so I found it. And we'd wander in the woods. We'd do all these sort of primitive skills stuff like fire making and animal tracking and edibles and sort of spiritual things, and just so I think this is our spot where we gotta.
We're now. This is the two roads diverged in the Yellow Wood, and we're taking the road
This
less
is where
traveled.
we stopped
The other
following.
one's not
the
even
trail.
really a road.
Yeah.
This is actually my favorite. One of my favorite paragraphs in the book is when we step off. Oh look, there's the little wood frog.
Oh, cute.
Step off the trail. Now we actually have to pay attention because you can't just trust the trail. Now you have to look around and see where you're going. So the Woodsy Club. It was the most important thing I did in college, probably. Just having that group of other people to come together and connect with nature.
What was your major in college? Did it have anything to do with this?
Yeah, it was physics.
I guess it does have to do with this, but not typically what you think of when you think of physics.
Not really. It was like, I was like shooting lasers at like electrons in the dark lab basement for my thesis, and it was like fun. I got into the theory and stuff, but I just was too much in the dark, and I really wanted to just be outside wandering around in the woods, and so, I apply some of the thinking of physics for sure. But
did you have to go back to school to become a professor and what you're teaching now? So like
Yeah.
is what you're teaching now more in line with what we're doing right now, which is walking off of a trail in the woods?
Sort of, yeah. I sort of studied ecology for a graduate school. I went to UMass to do organismic and evolutionary biology PhD. But ecology is a lot of theory and papers and academic stuff, and I'm really more into wandering around in the woods and connecting with nature on a different level, which is some of that, and I do get to do some of that in my teaching, especially in humane Orono. There's a heavy focus in our department on getting students outside and having sort of hands-on outdoor learning experiences. We gotta steer around this little wetland here, and we gotta find our way up along this coast.
How long has it been since you've been here?
A few years.
And I love that you still remember the little ins and outs and details of wherever we're going off this path.
Or I pretend to.
How are you holding up, kids? Your dad drag you into the woods like this all the time?
Yeah.
Do you like it, though?
Yeah.
We've already seen frogs and newts. What could be better?
Yeah.
I hope we're going the right way.
Noah just said, I hope we're going the right way. So do we.
Oh, nest.
Oh, you found a nest.
Think you can make it over this?
Yep. Yeah. We're climbing over the top of a giant fallen tree. My only concern is the recorder in one hand, but other than that, I think we got it. This is the most labor-intensive author interview we've ever done. We're gonna get all of our steps in today. What'd you find now?
Oh. Some kind of millipede thing.
Yeah, it's a millipede.
Why is it so big?
Probably an American millipede. It's the big kind. I think those
An
ones,
American millipede is called an intrapede.
I think American millipede is the species name. I'm not sure, but they're big and awesome and live around here. They like to eat wood. They make cool big poop that's like these little pellets of, I don't know, sawdust. And I think those ones smell when they get angry, which is kind of fun. Sometimes they smell like almonds. Sometimes they smell like vanilla, the different millipedes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool.
Those also make, if you step on them, they'll make a mark on your foot that'll look like this crazy, weird, bruisey tattoo that lasts for a while and then goes away and doesn't hurt.
We'll let this one go.
Yeah.
Your kids have eagle eyes for this kind of stuff, that they keep finding this nest and this
Yeah.
little frog or newt and then this millipede.
Well, when you're not staring at a screen all day, you get used to looking in the real world.
Touch grass, as the kids these days say.
So, here we are.
We found it. We found the mystery location with the Lorax.
I'm the Lorax. I speak for the trees.
Noah Charney, who speaks for the trees in his book, These Trees Tell a Story. So what is it? What is the mystery we're trying to uncover here?
Let's go down a little farther. I think.
Okay.
So I guess I always, when I bring students out, I always ask them first, what direction is south? So
Wow.
do you know which direction is south?
Let's see. Time of day. I'm gonna say this direction.
Something like that, plus or minus.
Yeah, like this,
90
like right over
degrees.
there. Yeah. Like not right on the trail, but a little off the trail.
So the sun rises in the east. He's always in the south all day, and then it sets in the west. So yeah, okay, you know where south is, you know the direction. So let's look at the pattern here. Do you see a pattern out there?
I mean, I see the human blazed trail.
Which wasn't here originally, but yeah.
The brush is entirely different on both sides.
Yeah, right?
Which
So
is
like,
nuts.
and it's like completely different species there than there. And when you start looking, it's like not only like the color and the structure and stuff, but if you start looking at the individual species, you're going to see completely different things here than there. There's very few species that occur the same on both sides, even though there's lots of species on both sides. If you look at the trees, the shrubs, the understory plants, everything is like this dramatic shift from one side to the other.
It's one thing to see it in the pictures in your book, and one thing to see it in person and see like how much mountain laurel there is on one side, just a lot, and then nothing on the other side.
Yeah, and the mountain laurel, and then even if you look up into the trees, there's like the basswoods and sugar maples, and then over here it's like oaks, and looks like there's hemlocks and there's chestnut oaks. So all the different layers, really big difference. You guys think you can find that one plant I told you to go find? Yeah. The students then, like when they come out here, would sort of go through like, okay, what could be causing this pattern? So I don't know if you have any ideas. You probably know already what it is.
Well, I mean, the path is sort of in a little gully, like almost a valley,
Yeah.
which seems like maybe a natural place where the trail would have come to. But the hills look like they are more natural. So I'm assuming it's exposure to the sun. In the same way that people say if you're going to get solar panels, put them on the south-facing side of your house because that's where the sun's going to be most of the day. This side is probably getting more sun than this side, which is the sun is behind it and is kind of shaded from it.
But that wouldn't necessarily account for the stark difference between the two. Like, there's barely any overlap between the plants.
So is it the sun or is it something?
So like if you look at the different species that are here and you look at the plants and what sites they prefer, you can see you have a bunch of plants like white ash and basswood and hog peanut and round-leaved hepatica that like moist forests. So, and then you have a bunch of the plants over here like American chestnut, chestnut oak, paper birch, mountain laurel that like tend to be in more drier sites. So like that seems to make sense. But when we look at this, all the moist loving plants are on the side over there that's facing the sun.
Which is getting more sun more of the day.
Oh, you found it. Do you know where was it?
It's over there where all there is.
What did you find?
It's, what is it called?
Hepatica.
Helvetica. It's one of my favorite fonts.
Right. So if we think about the sun pattern, the drier slope, the one that's facing the south, has all the plants that like the moist forest. So it's opposite of what you'd expect. It's really confusing and breaks your mind.
The flower said, I wish I
Nothing like going to the woods and having your mind break.
Yes.
I believe there's several stories about that.
Hog Peanut likes the moist part of that little, but we're in the middle of a mystery.
Yeah.
With Noah Charney in the middle of the woods. And I will just say that we usually have another scientist on the show on Mondays, but he's on vacation. And also, astronomer means a totally new thing this week than it did last week.
Wait.
With the Coldplay cam.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, that's a different type of astronomer.
I will also say that I entirely, on this whole trip, I forgot completely. I brought it with me, but did not use my bug spray.
Yeah,
and I had immediate regrets. And so I feel like I kept them mostly away from everybody else who decided to go on this trek with us. And you're welcome.
Yeah, well, that's good. I didn't get bit too much, but we
alive.
will discover what causes this mystery of the plants that has just been explained to us by Professor and author Noah Charney, and get into the deep geological history of Hampshire County.
After which we'll hear about the shortage of advocates for those needing court-appointed lawyers for their cases in the Commonwealth from attorneys Jack Godleski and Isaac Maas.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Bridge Enhanced ACL Repair. More at berkshirehealthsystems.org/orthopedics. Welcome back to the Fabulous 413, where we've been out in the wilds of Hampshire County with Professor and author Noah Charney, as well as his children Juno and Alder, looking at two very distinct patterns of plants straddling each side of a particular path.
And now we'll learn more about one of the reasons that this particular pattern may be occurring by seeking out a plant that can point us in the right direction.
So then you got to look a little deeper. And so what Juno just found for us is the Hepatica leaf, which is, to me, a kind of a special plant. It's really little, but it's a spring ephemeral that is always in these really rich forests. When you start looking beyond the moisture preferences, you see these hog peanut and basswood and hepatica. They have this other preference, which is for richness, which has to do with the soil nutrients. It turns out that it's actually the soils here which are driving this pattern, and the soils are derived from it when we look deeper at the rocks that are beneath the soils here. So the soil is made from two different things, basically. It either comes from the rocks weathering from below, or from plants decomposing and turning into sort of humus and peat from above. In this case, we're up on the mountain, and we have these two different rocks. We've got basalt next to this arkose, which is like a sandstone kind of thing. This is really where we start the book with this chapter, because this sort of tells the story of the whole Connecticut River Valley, because the basalt here comes from...
Literally on one side of this trail.
Yeah, the basalt. Do you know basalt? Or?
Not personally.
Yeah, okay. It's a good rock to know, but it's a lava volcanic rock. So it came from when there used to be like 700-foot deep lava lakes in the valley here. Remember that?
Yeah, I love that. That was a good era. The Bay State was still in Northampton.
Yeah, which, that came from when North America and Africa keep like bumping into each other, right? And like the last time they went to separate, all these cracks formed from North Carolina north, like in the crust where they were going to like split apart, and lava bubbled up into these cracks. And one was here in the valley, and this was going to become the Atlantic Ocean, but we didn't. That Rift Valley got aborted, and the valley that won was the thing just east of Boston. Almost Boston went off with Africa, but it ended up Western Mass and Eastern Mass got stuck together, for better or worse.
It would have been nice to have some oceanfront property out here. That's the one thing missing out here, the ocean.
So the Rift Valley got aborted, and the lava lake cooled off, and then some more. The mountains around were still sort of weathering and crumbling, and they piled sandstone on top of the basalt, the cooled lava, and then we had a few layers of that happening, so it went basalt, arkose, and these layers. And then those layers basically got tilted with the tumult of plate tectonics, and then they got weathered down, and it turns out that basalt is more resistant to weathering at the surface. So it stuck out. That's what the Holyoke Range is. It's sort of this basalt, this lava lake that's kind of sticking up. But there's still these layers of the basalt and the arkose sort of in the range, and when you hike up in the crack in between two of them, you end up with the layers tilted, and on one side the arkose and on the other side the basalt, which is where we're standing in between those layers. And it just turns out that basalt gives a lot of magnesium and other micronutrients to the soil, which makes for rich soil, which is why the plants over there are what they are. And usually I think of like rich and moist as going together. Lowlands tend to have a lot of water. The nutrients get brought down there from the uplands, and sort of you have these rich, wet areas. So plants that like rich and wet often are the same plants. But in this case, we've decoupled those two things. So the rich-loving things are on the dry side, and the poor, sort of acidic-loving things are on the moist side. And so those two things got split apart.
And the two sides are part of this rift that happened millions of years ago with plate tectonics and different soil types moving around and shifting and turning into small mountains like our Holyoke Range.
The land negotiated its continental prenup.
Yeah, this is exactly. This is a couple 100 million years ago, and the plants are telling you the story of the split between Africa and North America, and of the story of the whole valley, which is the Connecticut River Valley that became a glacial lake ultimately, and then the Connecticut River, and where we grow asparagus, and all of that really goes back to this Rift Valley that's told in these rocks and these plants here. So.
That's amazing.
That's so cool.
Really cool. It's so cool that you would walk by this and totally have little to no understanding of it. So how did you come to this understanding and bring it to this book, These Trees Tell a Story?
And your classes, because you did this, you taught other kids this.
Yeah, it was fun. It was the best job I've ever had. It only lasted a couple years, but you got nice hog peanut, nice. Leaf miners. You have the leaf miner, Charlie's favorite digitalis. No, it's another one.
Hog peanut looks too much like poison ivy for my liking. Yeah. Anything with 3 leaves, I'm terrified of.
But the lobe is different. It's not as shiny, and the
it doesn't
lobe
have the
is
little,
different.
Doesn't have the little notch out of one of the leaves.
Oh, it's a leaf roller in there. Yeah. I don't know if you know Charlie Eisman, but and we have this book on insect tracking that you get into, and he's gotten way deep down into the whole world of insect trails and stuff. It's a whole other thing you should discover. But how I found this site, really, Karen Searcy was the person who led me to this. She was a researcher at Maas for a long time, and she found this pattern in the Holyoke Range. She was studying the flora of the Holyoke Range and published a paper with a bunch of her students where she mapped out. She could, from aerial photography, looking at where there was mountain laurel, could map out where the bedrock was. So she figured out this pattern. And so I used her work to find this spot. And there are not a lot of spots reflect this kind of bedrock-driven plant pattern here because glacial till sort of covers most of our bedrock here. So really few places where the bedrock is well exposed and you get this kind of dramatic pattern. So she led me here. Generally, I sort of had to find this particular spot, and that's sort of true for a lot of the spots in the book. I did research on where other people had done research and what seemed like a cool pattern, and try to find some pattern like that in a landscape in the valley. Some of it is my own personal wanderings and stories and just discovering cool things, but a lot of it is really standing on people, academics who studied some topic well and documented it, and then trying to bring that in a sort of more experiential way to students and readers. So.
I was extremely intrigued by your aliens chapter because invasives are my quiet fascination.
Oh, yeah.
What did you find in sites like this where a lot of the really old or the older geological patterns really emerge from the land in terms of the plants that are now coming and thriving here?
Yeah, how do you connect the plants that have been here for millions of years to the plants that have just arrived? And a lot of those plants are going to have similar patterns too, right? They'll be new to this continent. They're not going to go everywhere. They're going to go to certain places that have the types of habitat that they want, often that's a recently disturbed site. In disturbed sites tend to have more invasives in part because there's, people are putting stuff in there. Also, they tend to have more open light so that they get invaded more easily and disturbed soils and all that kind of stuff. So that will sometimes dictate where they end up. Yeah, sometimes, a lot of these plants may have been new invaders a million years ago, and now we think of them as old friends. So some of that, it comes down to our values and what we're trying to do with the landscape and how we see the species out there. And certainly some of these old friends here have a lot of bugs that they contribute to the world and things that they feed, whereas the new invaders tend to have fewer hosts, or they tend to host fewer species, and so we like them sometimes less for those reasons and other reasons. But yeah, I mean, it's not like this is completely undisturbed here too. You can see the split trunk trees, a lot of these, an old logging history on both sides there. So
Yeah, and that was one thing in the book too. It says if you see those multiple trunked trees, a lot of time that is indicative of somebody had
Previous
cut that
logging.
down before.
For sure, and like that big basswood up there has like 5 stems coming out of one base, and you could probably draw a circle around the center of those and see the size of the original tree that was cut down. And that's not always logging. Other things can cause the top to be killed off, like disease or fire, and then the stump sprouts will take over and create a new set of trees. But often around here in particular, if you see a set where there's like the whole forest has pairs of trees of chestnut oaks or whatever it is, and they're all the same age, it often looks like a logging cut, and that's probably what it was. So the underground part might be like 300 years old, and the above ground part is like 150 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But
We are quite a bit away off the maintained path here, but have you seen instances like this that follow more curated trails in the same, like, splits like this, diversity-wise?
We've got one
Full
geological
set.
site on one side and one geological type on the other.
there's not a lot of places where you can step like 1 foot from one side to the next and see this kind of like dramatic shift. It's a little rare to see that. It's more like a gradual shift over like an extended space. Like, for instance, anywhere around the Connecticut River Valley, if you walk from down low, there will be lots of sort of soils and not a lot of rocks. And if you walk up a hill, you're going to get above lake level, and suddenly there's stone walls everywhere. You see that kind of shift sort of over hundreds of meters more than like take a jump from one rock.
Yeah,
to
which
the other.
we literally could do here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably 4 or 5 feet.
So no, this is a little bit of like an extreme good teaching example, particularly in the Northeast. I mean, when you have unglaciated landscapes, you can see more of these sorts of things, but it's not completely unheard of. And there are places, certainly around wetlands and stuff where you see dramatic changes just because of the moisture. The other thing you see often is at a stone wall, like an edge of fields where it was 100 years ago, this one was cut and this one wasn't. That's a case you'll see a lot of the time hiking the hills. You'll see there's I'm picturing a patch where there's like all this spice bush really thick, and then these like pines that are all like the same age, like up, and you can really see these two different fields 150 years ago. One was cut at a different time, or one was a logging cut and one wasn't. So you do see those kinds of patterns. I mean, I think about just hiking the trails around Mount Toby. I see that a lot. Again, land use driven patterns as opposed to bedrock or sort of geologic patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I need to unload those rocks.
Oh yeah, you got to return the rocks to nature. It'll be a lot less heavy on the way back.
That's what I was going to say. It'll make your walk back a
Alder,
lot
do you wanna
nicer.
unload your rocks there too? Alder's got some rocks too. So we put
Wait,
all-
how many rocks total?
I don't know, a lot. There are some big heavy rocks here. So all the basalt goes over there, and all the arkos goes over there. So that's the arkos, so we can put that over there. Oops, I don't want to hurt the plants. I'll have to do this more carefully. What do you got there, Juno?
It's a little chunk of basalt.
How many more rocks do we got? A lot. They've been sitting in our Airbnb, and people have come like, what? Why
do you have so many rocks?
Like, what's wrong with these people?
Did you label where they were from?
Not these ones, no.
There was, I think, an Onion headline saying something like, geologists say we should eat one small rock a day.
I mean, there's a lot of minerals in there.
Yeah.
It would be hard for your body to break down, but they are in there.
So Alder, the ones with the little tiny pebbles that look like that's the sandstone. So those go over there, and then these are the basalt, the lava, the volcanic ones go over there.
And they really do look like
Yeah, the,
dark
the
pumice.
basalt ones you look like they
It's
were
like
made
lava.
from lava. Yeah.
Like some of them, you can see like real bubbles of the cooled lava.
Yeah, that was the one I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that looks basalty.
The rest of them, they just have this angle, they break with these angles, which is why, you can make tools out of them. In the book, Neil made that stone adze out of this. So, yeah,
Ooh, another one.
Yeah.
Another millipede.
There's also a spider, but I couldn't catch it.
Yeah, and the basalt breaks like that because the crystals didn't have time to form big minerals, so it's just like this it's basically like glass. It cools so fast it's unstructured, which is why it's just this sort of even matrix that breaks in these sharp fractures. Whereas you can see the sandstone there is actually, they're rocks that were made in different processes, and then those got made into bigger rocks in this sort of conglomerate thing, so it's a whole
Rock
different...
casserole.
Yeah.
Did you unload all your rocks there, Alder?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. He's really into the rocks too. It's not his first time he's walked around with a giant backpack full of rocks. Usually there's fossils in it though.
Yeah, we got plenty of those around here too. We've done lots of conversations about them.
Oh yeah.
And there's so many places to see them. So.
Yeah, and our station has a map specifically designed for kids. That's like a dinosaur footprint map.
Oh cool.
Yeah.
I found a dinosaur footprint here.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, we've got behind our house in Mount Toby, there's like some layers that have Well, we found what it seems like crab feeding sign maybe from like the 150 million years ago.
Wow. That's awesome.
But it's the first record of it in the Hartford Basin, I guess. But like this was in COVID times, and I posted this on Twitter. I didn't know exactly what it was, and someone said that and said we should go take it into the museum. But the expert in that, he was like on Twitter, I think he died of COVID. So it's this really sad story. So then I was like, no, I don't know what to do.
Go to the Benesky in Amherst.
I actually have talked to him a little bit, but yeah, so it's sort of it's hanging on our wall near where the rocks.
Oh, that would be cool. You'd be the discoverer of this.
I mean, it's in other places, but yeah, it's so yeah, there's some cool things to be found around.
Well, we know the guy who discovered Jurassic armored mud balls, so now we know the guy who's crab feeding in the Connecticut River Basin.
Something like that, yeah. You know, like when crabs, they come out of their burrows and you see them on the beaches, they'll kind of do this thing, and it makes this distinctive like little lines and curled up balls of sand.
That's so cool. All right, now that we've given the rocks back to their home, here we go back to ours and to civilization and cars.
So the moral is, again, when you're hiking, don't forget to look up and around you, because maybe the landscape is changing and it's telling you something about the land beneath your feet.
Because these trees tell a story. That is the name of the book from our hiking guide, Noah Charney.
There is unrest in
And we were definitely too focused on being outside and the wonder that is outside Western Mass, but that book is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, it's a gorgeous book.
It's somewhere between, as I said at the beginning, textbook and field guide. Beautiful pictures.
For sure.
It makes me, when I drove by the Holyoke Range today, think basalt as opposed to tofu curtain, which is what I usually think. And now I want to know about like the crab feeding sign. I want to know about the history of crabs in Western Mass, given that we were almost the east coast of the East Coast as opposed to the western part of the East Coast.
Yeah, or possibly, like, depending on where we were in that lava flow, part of Africa.
Yeah, I mean, we could have gone either way.
We could have gone either way.
You, on the way out, grabbed a leaf that turned out to be poison ivy.
Yes.
How did you do?
I did fine. As I mentioned then, poison ivy is not as terrible with me as it is with other people.
If I look at poison ivy, I get poison ivy.
Yeah, no, that's, again, like my shoulder to bear was the mosquitoes.
Yes.
Who definitely attacked me and did way worse things to me than that plant could have done.
Also, Noah Charney, in the back of his car, had a whole, like, hand-washing station ready to go. I think this isn't his first rodeo with poison ivy.
He did mention that he's wandered into a patch or two and mentions that in the book as well.
Yeah.
And some of the other dangerous things that he gets up to too, like discovering or like delving into the mysteries that these plants and geological features tend to make him think about.
That's right.
It's really cool.
And he's got 9 other locations in this book that are all in the general vicinity, most of which are secret, some of which we may go visit with him at another occasion and expose you to the wonders of the trees and the geology of the Connecticut River Valley.
More geological mysteries, more and more. Okay, and now we head to find out more about the delays in due process in Massachusetts as we take a closer look at the bar advocate shortage.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. And Godleski and Isaac Maas.
Yes, ma'am. Or sir. Sorry.
You can call me ma'am.
That's okay.
I answer to all pronouns. I answer
people
to every pronoun lives in me. I contain multitudes. All right.
I'm every pronoun.
Exactly.
It's all in me.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Singular they is older than singular you. Okay. That's what we get for dealing with dictionary editors all the time.
Bar advocates in Massachusetts who handle 80% of indigent criminal defense in the state have stopped taking cases because they are paid less than half of what all neighboring states pay.
This means that the accused are being denied their Sixth Amendment right to an attorney. You know, those Miranda rights that you hear on every cop show. Earlier this month, the single justice of the Supreme Judicial Court ruled that the LaValle protocols would be instituted for Essex and Middlesex counties and the Boston Municipal Court. And that means that after 7 days without an attorney, the courts must have a hearing and release criminal defendants. Additionally, after 45 days, these cases must be dismissed.
This situation is serious and getting worse. Here in Franklin County, the month of July had only a single day covered by a bar advocate. Dozens of days had no attorney on duty.
We are joined by attorney Jack Godleski, who graduated from Western New England School of Law in 2013. He's been a bar advocate since 2014 and takes appointed cases in the Franklin and Hampshire County District and Superior Trial Court panels. He's the supervising attorney for the Franklin County Bar Advocate Panel, is also part-time adjunct professor at BU Law for the Compassionate Release Practicum. Besides admission to the Mass Bar, attorney Godleski is admitted to the Federal District of Massachusetts and the First Circuit Court of Appeals.
Isaac Maas is a 14-year criminal defense attorney in Greenfield. He handles criminal cases that range from driving without a license to attempted murder. He works as a bar advocate, accepting appointments to defend indigent clients. He's presented continuing legal education workshops for the local bar and is a mentor to several newer criminal defense attorneys. Isaac is running for sheriff in Franklin County, runs the Garden Cinema, Franklin County's only first-run cinema, and is joining us from the National Criminal Defense College in Fairfax, Virginia. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, counselors, for doing this. This does seem like an important issue. Isaac, you wanted to bring this to our listeners' attention for sure and wanted to bring Jack into this conversation. So, Jack, let's start with you as the supervising attorney for the Franklin County Bar Advocate Panel. How does this work in the best of times if you are somebody that can't afford a lawyer and will have an attorney appointed for you, as those Miranda rights say?
Well, every day in every court, at least district court in Massachusetts, there is supposed to be at least one what's called a duty attorney on post every day. And that duty attorney, or in busier courts like Springfield, duty attorneys are appointed to the cases that come in that day. You know, when you show up for your duty day, you really don't know what the day has in store. But everyone who gets an arraignment, whether it's by summons or through an arrest or for whatever reason you end up in the courthouse that day, if you can't afford an attorney, the duty day attorney is who takes the case. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but there's two kind of buckets where those attorneys come from. One is from the Public Defender's Office, which is the Committee for Public Counsel Services. They handle about approximately 20% of the cases in the Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. And then the lion's share, 80% of the cases, come from nonprofit organizations that each county has that run a panel of essentially private contractor, they're called bar advocates, who sign a contract and go through some training and vetting and have to be qualified. And then they are supplied as duty attorneys. So that's essentially like bird's eye view how it goes.
And so, Jack,
may I, before we go on, Monty, yeah. I just want two things you mentioned, if I could.
Sure.
I think I heard you say that Essex and Middlesex counties are the crisis counties. It's the La Valley protocol that the SJC declared at the beginning of July. That's Suffolk County. But I am hearing that CPCS is seeing Essex as, they're saying, teetering on a crisis and might be added to the case at the SJC to be included as one of the crisis counties, like a declaration of emergency, essentially. And I also heard you indicate that there were dozens of dates in July. There are, as I'm talking to you right now, 14 days in Greenfield District Court that should have been covered by a bar advocate. There are additional days in Franklin County from Orange District Court. I don't have the figures on that.
But suffice it to say that
it could be dozens. I'm not quite sure.
So lawyerly, and I appreciate that.
I was going to say, I was like, this is what we get for talking to lawyers. Immediate corrections.
Objection, Your Honor. So the point being that these advocates who could be making money doing any other type of law, or working only with private clients who have enough money to pay them whatever fee they decide they want to charge, have decided to work with these bar advocate panels that are nonprofits and are getting paid less than half of what all neighboring states pay, Isaac. And that's what brought it to your attention. So how are you going to incentivize people, good lawyers, to come do a good, honest day's work when they know that New Hampshire is paying double as much for those days that they decide to be on call in these courts? Is there movement afoot, Isaac, to try to rectify the situation? And how does it get rectified?
We hope so. We're working with our legislative delegations and reaching out to the governor's office to get her to take some action in changing the rate. The rate that we're paid is actually set by statute. In the district court, which is where the vast majority of cases are, attorneys are paid $65 an hour. And I'm out here at the Criminal Defense College right now and talking to colleagues. I have a colleague who's trying to recruit me to come to Nevada, where they get paid $172 an hour. It is very hard to get people to take these cases when they know they can sit in their living room and do appellate work for Maine and get paid $150 an hour. I know at least one local bar advocate who's an excellent attorney who would move to Massachusetts and said, why am I doing this when I can be doing DCF work in Florida by Zoom and get paid twice as much money? And so that's what he got off the panel and is doing that work instead. It's keeping good attorneys representing the people who are poor is very, very hard.
When was the rate last changed, and how long have you known how low our rate is in comparison to the other states surrounding us?
The last changes happened fairly recently. There was a counsel shortage in Hampden County during the pandemic. There was a special master appointed to try to see what the solution was. The solution was pretty obvious, that they weren't paying enough to attract enough manpower. There was several incremental raises. I think it went from 50 to 65 over the course of 3 years, from like 2021 to 2023. And then that was when it stopped. There haven't been any increases since then. And before that, I think that the last increase might have been in 2024.
When I started practicing in 2011, it was $50 an hour.
Mm-hmm. If you look at the increases over since 2004, and you annualize it, it's approximately 75 cents a year that they've been raising the rate since 2004.
Money, what's important to understand is we're not taking home that $65 an hour. We have to, out of that $65 an hour, pay for everything the state pays for the public defender's office. So that's malpractice insurance, health insurance, our retirement, our office, any of the subscriptions we need to do our job. Those of us who have administrative aides pay for administrative work out of that. And it really whittles down. I think some studies were done that show that after you take out all of the expenses for bar advocates, they're essentially making about $22 an hour.
And this would want to raise your pay to about $100 an hour. That would move you closer to other states, like I mentioned, New Hampshire and Rhode Island. The cost of living different in those places than they are, especially in certain parts of Massachusetts. And we're speaking with Jack Godleski and Isaac Maas, two attorneys who have worked with these bar advocate panels and have taken these so-called indigent client cases. That is their constitutional right to have an attorney if they've been accused of a crime. You mentioned Hampden County made some changes recently. Is this being done county by county, or is it a statewide affair?
Those increases that I mentioned that came from a problem in Hampden County were implemented commonwealth-wide. So when the legislature increases the compensation, it goes across the Commonwealth. And one kind of additional fact I should point out about that Hampden County situation is that the special master's report determined that the problem was compensation. That's related to a case called Carrasquillo from 2020. And in that special master's report, the rate suggested was $120 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, even going back to 2020 when they identified the problem and crunched the numbers and gave a solution, that is still approximately twice what the rate is now, unfortunately.
In addition to the lower rate of pay, have you simultaneously seen an uptick in the number of cases? Are a larger amount of cases coming before bar advocates than were in the past?
I think that's totally true for the bar advocates who aren't involved in the work stoppage. The people who are still taking cases are getting way too many cases for them to handle effectively. And that includes the people who work for the state and the public defender's office. Those public defenders are reaching their caps all over the state. And what happens is when you have that many cases, you're not really providing effective assistance to anyone. You're in a triage mode. So what happens is you're not having equal justice under the law. People are being treated as a number instead of as a person. From my view, you shouldn't have to be Karen Reed to get a fair trial in Massachusetts. No matter how rich or how poor you are, you have a right to a fair defense.
I just want to chime in on the question before that. Sorry to be out of order.
So lawyerly. I'll allow it.
I can't help it. It's in my DNA. So when you talk about caseload and the amount of cases, that's a really good question, because I'm not certain about the amount of prosecutions and how many docket numbers are open statewide, but that doesn't mean that relatively each individual lawyer isn't being carrying an increasingly higher and higher caseload. And that is because over the last 10 years, there's an attrition of bar advocates. People aren't coming into the panels to do the work, to start their careers, and people are aging out and aren't being replaced. So as that happens, the people who remain have to take on more and more of a share of the work and spend less and less time on their cases just because there's only 24 hours in the day. And, you know, as the supervisor in Franklin County, that is an extreme motivator for me to try to see some change here in compensation, because we can't attract talent to get started doing this job. And we're losing our institutional memory. We're overburdening the attorneys who are still willing to do it. And it all results in poorer service for the people who deserve it. I think another thing to keep in mind is that when we are talking about people who can't afford a lawyer in a criminal case, you really have to keep in mind that I think it's over 90% or even closer to 95% of people who are charged with a crime, they can't afford a lawyer. So when we're talking about the people who are represented by the indigent defense bar, that's the super majority of criminal cases in Massachusetts.
If people are concerned about this, and if you are lovers of the Constitution, I think maybe you should be, that the people who can't afford an attorney would have an attorney appointed for them, and that attorney would be a good attorney and somebody who is paid fairly for the work that they do, especially commensurate with surrounding states. What are the avenues that you think people should investigate to learn more about this and or to advocate for a fairer pay for these bar advocates across the Commonwealth?
I think that people should contact their local lawmaker. Isaac and I and some other panel members had an opportunity to talk to Senator Comerford about that, and that is definitely one of the suggestions she made. She's very well informed. She seems very motivated to address it, but also seeks to be supported by the community and making sure that, you know, her colleagues understand that this is what the public wants.
We have been speaking with Jack Godleski, who is the supervising attorney for the Franklin County Bar Advocate panel, as well as bar advocate Isaac Maas, who again is running for sheriff in Franklin County. We have to disclose that. And it is also the owner of the Garden Cinema. Totally non sequitur question. Isaac Maas, what has been the most popular movie of the summer at the Garden?
This week it's Superman. Superman is very excited, which it sort of ties into this because it's about truth, justice, and the American way, which is what we all defend every day.
I mean, it's also an immigrant story.
Yeah,
it is. That is absolutely true, and we represent lots of immigrants who are criminal defendants sometimes, and people who aren't immigrants. We represent everybody.
Well, thank you so much for shining some light on this important issue.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Loyally till the end.
Loyally to the end. And I want to say I just saw Superman at the Garden Cinema yesterday, and it was excellent. I don't understand what all the hoopla is about being too woke. If you've ever seen any other superhero movie, it's always like, this person's different than us. We don't know if we like him or not. And
yeah.
That's really it.
I mean, yes.
I also
my issue with Superman is more just the standard thing.
Yeah, he's kind of a boring superhero.
He's a boring superhero.
Right. I will say, from Isaac Maas for Sheriff website, he writes, I'm a lifelong Republican and I'm considering running for Franklin County Sheriff as a Republican in one of the bluest counties in all the bluest states. Even though we've not had a Republican candidate for sheriff since 1992, I believe it may be possible because I think that most people know that I'm fiscally conservative, socially progressive, and committed to reasonable compromise and rule of law. To that end, the Trump administration seems to have a real problem with the rule of law. He goes on to say that. So a refreshing voice in one Isaac Maas. And a little tidbit about the La Valley protocols, as we were talking about earlier, from NEPM News Department's Phil Bishop, with a local connection to the name of those protocols.
Hi, Monty and Khalees.
Hello.
This is Phil. I'm the button hitter. And I just wanted to let you guys know, I spoke with the president of the Hampden County Lawyers for Justice last week about this issue as well. And the La Valley Protocol is a Hampden County, the nomenclature, the etymology is based in Hampden County. There was a previous bar advocate work stoppage in 2004, and a series of indigent defendants who did not have counsel created a lawsuit against the Hampden County Superior Court in 2004. And that was how they established the La Valley Protocol.
Well, there you go.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it was Hampden County that got the last pay increase for those bar advocates, so we'll see how that unfolds.
Indeed.
As we go forward. Well, let's take a quick little break, and then we'll get you all prepped for the exciting fund drive coming up this week.
That's a way to put it. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Ah, yes, the iconic car talk theme.
Are we going to talk about, like, terrible cars? Because I have one.
We could do that. We should revive car talk.
I mean, it'd be nice, except it'd just be me complaining.
Well, we certainly laugh as much as the car talk
That's
guys.
very true.
But tomorrow is the beginning of the Meet the Moment Fund Drive. And the moment, if you've been paying attention, is the fact that the Corporation for Public Broadcasting had a clawback of its funds called a rescission that happened late last week. So that means this station, one of the NPR/PBS affiliates, is set to not receive the $875,000 that we were hoping to receive on October 1, and that is a substantial amount of money.
Indeed it is. So we are having an impromptu fund drive to try and make up some of that difference and get us back a little bit closer to on track.
Now, you can donate at any time by going to nepm.org, and there is a big link that's explaining all the things that happened. Big thank you to Maas Live and The Republican for doing a front page story about this last week. They were here in the office again today interviewing all of us about what this means, and to other organizations like Amherst Cinema or to DJ Bongo Head for reaching out because they believe that public media holds an important place in our community.
Double-edged too.
And in their lives. Yes, absolutely, double-edged theater. One of the things that might be fun to do during the course of this Meet the Moment Fund Drive this week is if public radio has been important to you or if public television has been important to you, let us know about it, either when you donate and fill in the little comments or just shoot us an email subsequently.
Yeah, and we'll read them out.
thefab413@nepm.org. Khalees and I always talk about how we grew up on public
literally raised
media.
on it, in addition to, like, my uncle worked for GBH for a number of years.
So it's important to us. It's also where we get our money from. Full disclosure. On the next Fabulous 413, the play is The Thing, wherein we head to the Berkshires where the bard makes his mountain home.
At a former boys' school, now the Mecca to theater, that is Shakespeare and Company, to chat with staff members of its current production and run amok in the costume place.
We'll also take you to a corn farm stand on 5 and 10 in Deerfield. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. See you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413. Go get some corn. It's in season.